Hello, guys. What is going on? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for joining me for a special episode tonight for BrassReel Tonight. Of course, you guys all probably know that, man, we lost a comic great yesterday. And, we lost some other people recently. Betty White was another comic great. Sidney Poitier, he was just a greatness all across the board. But I had to talk about Bob Saget just because of how influential he was to my entire life growing up on TV. Even afterwards, he's always snuck his way in there and kept himself in Hollywood somehow, whether it's been showing up in cameos, showing up in something like Fuller House, which is, reboot of Full House. And anyways, I'll go on and I'm going to get to all that, but I just had to take some time and do a little tribute to Bob. I was doing my Scream video and all that, which is taking forever. And I was like, you know what? This guy was just too funny and too awesome. And everybody in Hollywood loved him so much too. So terrible news about him dying at 65. And I don't think anybody was suspicious of any foul play or anything like that, but they've definitely been very avid on confirming that there was no foul play. And, he wasn't that type of guy. Unfortunately, the way they're describing it is that he was found in his hotel room. The hotel was completely in order. He was supposed to check out earlier that day. And I guess that his family was trying to get a hold of him and they couldn't get him. And finally they got into the hotel room and found him. Apparently he had his arm laying on his chest, like his left arm was just laying in his bed. So I think we all kind of can figure maybe what the cause of death was, but don't want to jump to any assumptions yet, just because we don't know. And we don't know. But man, it's a terrible loss, obviously, when anybody passes away. But for me, this guy, he was just so huge into entertainment for me all across the board. And I'll get to like how he was so influential here in a second, but 65 was just, oh my goodness. I don't think anybody could say that they saw this coming. His family, no one. I mean, I think it was a huge jolt to everybody. But man, as you can see, I got a little tribute set up to him right now. Bob Saget, you will definitely be missed, brother. I obviously didn't know you at all, but I felt like I knew you because Bob Saget was a part of my life as far as television is concerned my entire life. Except for like cartoons. So pretty much like when I started watching other things besides cartoons as a kid, Bob Saget was in there. And he was in there for America's Funniest Home Videos is how I really got to know him. In Full House, I knew of that, but I think I knew him in Full House and recognized him because of him being on America's Funniest Videos. And just the way he narrated the videos on this show. Like, first off, back then that, we didn't have any online stuff. We couldn't look up anything, couldn't watch any funny videos. And so it was a treat on Sunday night. I think it came on at 6:30. It was like right before the prime time on Sunday night, whatever primetime shows were coming on Sunday. It was right before that. And I just remember being excited all day, just waiting for that 30-minute segment that was so hilarious. And for sure, watching those videos were funny on their own, but the narration that Bob Saget put behind it and just the gimmicks that he would come up with are truly what made the show, in my opinion. That's what gave the show the personality and made people really start returning. Because I think if you just had the videos, again, it would have been funny, and it was a really cool way to get a window into other people's lives at that time because we didn't have any internet. But the little gimmicks and one-liners and characters and voices he would do behind the videos as they were going on and watching them, to me, made them, if not doubly funny, triply funny. That's how great that he made that show. And he was so funny as the host. I mean, how can you not smile just by looking at that guy right there? And he's pulling a puppy up on there talking about, I don't even know what he was talking about, but he was referred to as sort of like America's TV dad. Danny Tanner on Full House was definitely his father-like presence. And, he was clean on America's Funniest Videos too, which again, that's how I feel like I first discovered him, was on that show. But I think that he was doing these right at the same time. And I'm not sure which one came first. I should have done my research on that, but I was just trying to put this all together. And that's something I forgot to look up. And the show's consistently gone on too, but I feel like he was the first one that started it, and you've had it go on with Tom Bergeron later on, and then Alfonso after him. And it's really cool because they've done like the 30th anniversary where they all three gone back and kind of hosted together and just done a celebration, and cool pictures with him here. And you can just tell that if he's willing to go back and celebrate these newer guys doing it, that one, he's not intimidated by them at all. And two, he's happy for him. And he's just happy to be a part of something that's still going, and it's a legacy as well. And so I feel like that you can tell when you look at certain pictures when it's a genuine picture or a posed picture. And these pictures seem extremely genuine. Like this seems like laughter that was caught on camera. And like I said, no one that ever was associated with Bob Saget had a bad thing to say about him. He was a great guy. From what I understand, he had a huge heart. He was very supportive of everyone he came across. He loved people being passionate about what they were doing. In fact, I saw an interview with him today on the Today Show of him talking about how he met Tiffany Haddish. And when he first met her, she was like 15 or 16, and he met her at this like comedy shop that was in, I don't know if it was in Philly or if it was in Brooklyn or Chicago, somewhere, but they did this sort of comedy camp thing in the afternoons, right before the big comedy hours would start later in the evening. And it was for young up and coming comedians. And it was like a workshop. They would give them pointers. They would allow them time to practice and all that stuff. Then obviously you would see by the end of these workshops, the ones that would start to shine a little bit and the ones that were, all right, that's the one. And he said Tiffany was always great. He always supported her hardcore. Apparently she was living out of her car. And the way he talked about her becoming successful, it was like he was talking about his daughter or something. And I think that was a really good sign. And I guess sign is the word I'm looking for, of what kind of person he was and how he cared about people. And I think that he loved people. And he had a ton of friends in the industry that I think once he came across you as a friend and something meaningful happened between you, he held on to that and wanted to remain friends. I mean, him and John Mayer became friends later in life. I think John Mayer sang at his most recent wedding, which John Mayer's posted some stuff about him, and everybody's posted stuff about him. I mean, it's crazy, the stuff that I've seen posted about this guy. And it's funny how you don't forget, obviously, but when someone's gone, man, it just comes to the surface how big of the industry they were, how big of that part of their life you were. For somebody like me, who entertainment is my life, I mean, yeah, he was all over it. And man, he is just going to be missed. I really still am in slight shock about it. I can't imagine the people that knew him and know him and his family and all that. He was in the middle of a tour. Apparently he just posted something about, I just did a 2.5-hour set tonight. I didn't even realize I did comedy for that long. Apparently I'm doing comedy like I was when I was 26. And he was just really excited about this new comedy tour he's doing. And he's even got a comedy special on Peacock right now. You can watch. It's hilarious. And he's got a ton of that. But like I said, it's a shame when everyone passes. But for me, I just can't believe it. 65, just too young. And for a guy that wasn't a partier, wasn't someone who abused his life, he definitely used his life for positive. He appreciated things. He lived it for other people a lot. His family, is all he bragged about. Apparently, even the last show that he had, he was connecting with some dude because he would do things with the audience and interact. And some guy was talking about how he had 3 daughters, and Bob was like, I've got 3 daughters, and immediately started not necessarily getting emotional, but you could tell the warmth that was coming out of him on stage, just talking about his own daughters. And so that spread throughout all of his friends. And after America's Funniest Home Videos, obviously Full House, he was on that for way longer. That ended in 95, I think. And there he is, America's dad right there. And he developed hardcore friends for life, especially John Stamos and Dave Coulier. Obviously, the two guys there on the left. The guy on the right, I can't ever remember his name, but that was Candace Cameron's boyfriend on the show. But Dave Coulier and John Stamos definitely became really close friends and remained close friends with him. I mean, look at these shots right here. How precious is that? You got the Olsen twins. Well, I say it's the Olsen twins. It's one of the Olsen twins. They were both playing her. Candace Cameron. You got little, what's her name? Why am I drawing a blank? Oh my gosh. Because you got Keebler is the friend. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the middle daughter. Anyways. And you can see them here now. This is them down the road. And of course, they've had that reboot for Fuller House and all that stuff. But John Stamos and Dave Coulier, I know for a fact, and we'll get to some of the stuff that they said later on, but I know they were super close with him, remained close with him. I mean, look at that right there. You can just tell. And right here, you can just see that there's comedy that exists between the two of them right there. And I loved Full House. I mean, Cut It Out with Dave Coulier, always cut it out. Hang on a second. I've got something wacky happening here with. Oh, there it is. I figured out what it was. Something was sounding weird in my ears. It was killing me. Maybe you heard it too. But yeah, Dave Coulier with the Cut It Out. And what's funny is that Bob Saget had the America's Funniest Home Videos, but then later on, Dave Coulier hosted with Daisy Fuentes. It was some other show. It was like America's Funniest People, I think is what it was called. But I just think it's kind of ironic that they both came from that show and hosted home video shows. But yeah, just look, I just want to go over some of these pictures that you have there. You can just tell the camaraderie was existing there. And like I said, these people are shocked. John Stamos, man, some of the stuff that he was saying is just, God, it kills you. In fact, I'm going to read some of that right now. One of the things that John said, and this, like I said, this just kills you. I'm broken. I'm gutted. I'm in complete, utter shock. He said, I will never have another friend like him. I love you so much, Bobby. Man, I mean, look at that. You can tell right there in the pictures that they loved each other. And you can look online and watch a lot of their fun stuff that they did together. And like I said, they were at each other's weddings, all that kind of stuff. But you can see them just posting videos, having fun, cuddling up each other. I think when Bob Saget got married recently, he was talking about how, yeah, John and I got married and just funny stuff. And oh man, just terrible. But after he did Full House, you know, he still had a career. But to me, some of the funniest stuff that he did is when he was showing up and making cameos, like when he did Entourage. I don't know if you guys are Entourage fans. I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows. He was hilarious on there because he plays himself. But when they go see him, they've got some engagements connected with him that they're talking about some future movies they might want to do or a future show, something. But Adrian, you know, the guy on the right, is going to get to know him and they're going to go party with him. You can see E in the back there. And Bob Saget just turns out to be this guy who's got all these hookers. He's literally smoking bongs and stuff like that in front of everybody, just partying. I mean, it was hilarious, filthy mouthed, everything. I couldn't believe when I saw it. I'd known that Bob Saget had dirty comedy because that was the thing. He had dirty comedy, stand-up dirty comedy, which that was sort of like his original stuff. Then when he got hired for the TV shows, I think because he was always trying to be an actor, but I think his look just branded him. They were like, oh, you're going to be a great clean-cut dad. And then his humor was clean cut on America's Funniest Home Videos, but it was so silly and dad jokey that it was hilarious. And you can tell that he knew that. But I love the fact that he had the dirty side and the clean side. And he even said, he's like, I love dirty humor, but I also love clean humor too. It just depends on who I'm around and where I am, you know? So I think that one was great. And the fact that you know that he's a really good guy in real life, he plays a really good guy on TV. And then you see him show up in something like Entourage where he's playing this just terrible dude. Excuse me. And I had these other pictures that I don't know what, I swear I uploaded them to this and I just don't know where they are, but the pictures of him on the couch with the girls at Entourage when they're turning around, he's just smoking all this stuff and making out with these girls. It's, to me, priceless, because it's like, look at Danny Tanner from Full House. Look what he's doing. And again, if you didn't know that dirty style of humor that he was capable of, you wouldn't know anything about it. For example, if you know anything about this movie, The Aristocrats, oh my God, it is awesome. It's 100 comedians telling the same joke. Now, I know what you're saying. They're telling the same joke. And if you've seen The Aristocrats and you know all about this, you might be aware of The Aristocrats joke. And if you are, then I'm just going to tell it for the people that don't know. But it's an ongoing joke in Hollywood. I say in Hollywood, in the comedy world, the stand-up comedy world. And it's basically, you tell this joke like you're pitching something to an ad agency, or you're pitching something to a film agency, but you're pitching an idea, and what you're doing is you're having to tell a story. So like you're pitching it to an ad agency, like it's going to be a great commercial, or you're pitching it to a film studio, like, look, this would be a great film. And you pitch this story starting off with this family, and it's like, so this family shows up at the talent agency. That's how you start off the joke. Every time it's like, this family shows up at the talent agency. And then you keep going so crass and so over the top crude with the content that you're explaining the story, and you make it up as you go. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you've created your own Aristocrats joke that you want to tell because you've crafted it just perfectly to where it's just so god awful and so offensive, and just wherever your mind is going, the idea is to take the joke further than you can possibly imagine something being just terribly crude and gross, and trying to be funny at the same time, but you just get over. I mean, I'm talking about always involving like sodomy and what's the word I'm looking for? Incest and things like that. I mean, I'm not trying to be gross here. I'm just telling you what it is. And the thing is that Bob Saget's stint on The Aristocrats. Okay, so that's what The Aristocrats is. It's all these famous comedians, and sometimes it's some actors, but most of the time the actors that are on there started off as comedians, all telling their version of the Aristocrats joke and how they would tell it. And again, sometimes people have it all crafted out. Sometimes people are just making it up as they go. Bob Saget's stint, his little segment on here, and I'm not going to air it on here because you can't. There's just no possible way I could air it. It is definitely the filthiest one on the movie. And again, this movie's called The Aristocrats. See how it's got the little blurred out thing on the dog? Because there's always, usually that's another thing in the joke. You always bring a dog into play. So you start off with a family, and it's like, and then they bring the dog into the situation. And again, usually talking about something sexual, supposed to be like performing for a talent agency. And Bob Saget's version of it is, like I said, I'm not even recommend you watch this because it's that over the top. But what's so funny is he starts laughing at himself while he's telling it. And it's so funny because you're like, out of all these comedians, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, I mean, just all these people, Jeff Ross, like people who can get dirty. Bob Saget, Danny Tanner from Full House is the one from America's Funniest Home Videos. He's the one that like just trumps all of them with this joke and being the crudest. And it's so funny just to watch it. And if you do have, you know, a thick skin and a hard stomach when it comes to, you know, crass jokes, you would enjoy this movie. If you don't, and you get offended by some stuff, don't watch it because it is Bob Saget. It might ruin the idea of Bob Saget that you have in your head. But I have to bring that to light because it's so funny that he's capable of being this guy right here. And then fast forward, he's this guy right here telling this joke on The Aristocrats, which is just, again, one of the crudest things I've ever heard, but so funny. And speaking of crude, it's really cool because he gets roasted. And if you get roasted by, it used to be the Friars Club roast. And now I think that somehow or another, the Friars Club is sort of like dwindled and whittled itself down to nothing. And the Comedy Central roast is sort of taken over it. And you still have all these famous people involved. But for example, like when Drew Carey got roasted a long time ago, it was the Friars Club roast. Now they just call it the Comedy Central roast. but it's the same thing, same organization. But this roast with Bob Saget on there, it's great because obviously the roasts are always beautiful, but most of the time they're roasting somebody. At least recently, they've been roasting people that aren't maybe necessarily the best at stand-up and the best at doing comedy and things like that. Well, Bob is. And so not only is he a great sport the entire time, and he's having so much fun with all of his buddies up there, and you can tell they're having a good time, but he gives it back like the best of them. Like when he comes back up there, because everybody always has their little, thing at the end. Whoever's getting roasted has their final last word. And man, it is just from opening line to ending line. It's comedy gold. It's beautiful. I love him. And the whole thing is just great because he's such a good sport being up there. A lot of times you can see people up there that they're pretending to be good sports, and they are being good sports because they're there, but you can tell it's getting to him a little bit. Bob, none of this is getting to him in the show. So that to me makes it so much more enjoyable to watch. And when you get to see him at the end really do his thing, it just makes it that much funnier too. And another thing that was great about the roast is that him and Norm Macdonald were always at these things together. And him and Norm were really good boys. They were really good friends back in the day. And it's kind of crazy because both of them died recently. And Bob talked about when Norm died, how it affected him. He's like, I can't believe it. He was so young. And man, how terrible is that? Both of them dying within the same year like that. It's technically not the same year, but within a year. And man, similar humor too. They both had similar humor. They would take you places. They would get a little kooky with their humor. They would get off their rocker. Like I'm going to show you one of the jokes that Bob Saget had right here. This is a great one. I have the brain of a German Shepherd and the body of a 16-year-old boy. They're both in my car, and I want you to see them. That's classic. Awesome, Saget. Oh, we got a comment right here. Let me see who's chiming in. I'm a sister. Thanks for chiming in. I appreciate you there. And yes, R.I.P. Bob. You are correct. Man, will be missed. And again, not only did he just do Funniest Home Videos in Full House, he had that cameo in Entourage. It was really cool, and it was for a few episodes. I think one of his most famous things ever, though, that he might be known for, maybe not by everyone, but with a little bit of a younger crowd like myself, is his little cameo in Half Baked. Oh my God, that was so funny. Too funny when he does this. And out of the blue, no one had any idea he was going to be in this movie because it's not a Bob Saget movie. You know what I mean? You didn't see him in the trailer. The content, it's about a bunch of weed smokers. And, Half Baked is very much a fictional fantasy type weed movie. It's like you have movies like Dazed and Confused where they're chief and they're smoking in that movie a little bit. But Half Baked is like straight up. It's almost like a cartoon. You know what I mean? So when Bob Saget shows up like this, too good. I mean, too good. So look, I just want to air what he says. And I'm going to add this real quick. Oh, there we go. Of course, So I just want to put this on here because I'm telling you, this is hilarious. And when you see what he says, if you haven't seen this, you're going to be like, oh my God. And that's how we all felt in the theater when we saw this, because we didn't know Bob Saget was here. And then all of a sudden he just see him in the background and he stands up and says this right here. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Marijuana is not a drug. I used to suck dick for coke. I seen them.
So yeah, that was just too great. Dave Chappelle's character Thurgood is in rehab for weed, but he put himself in there. And as soon as he says that, that's what they end up coming up and saying. And, oh, Bob Saget was hilarious. Too good. All right. So moving on. On top of that, he ends up doing How I Met Your Mother. And I know what you're saying. It's like, no, he wasn't in that show, but he was the narrator the entire show. And this show has literally become one of my top 20 shows as far as sitcoms. Really funny show. It lasted for 9 seasons. Yeah, it started to dwindle a little bit, But Bob was so great because he was the narrator. He was the father of the kids, telling them the story of How I Met Your Mother. So I just think it's really cool that this entire time you've seen him on Full House, you've seen him on America's Funniest Home Videos, and then you get to hear his voice this entire show, which is 9 seasons. Awesome. Greatness. And it was very comforting. I don't think that there was another voice that could have done the show that way and been that narrator, and it just resonate to you like it did. I mean, every episode that starts off, you just hear him go, kids, and it just sets you right into it. And just another testament of the warmth and the talent that old Bobby Boy had. And then after all that, he gets on Fuller House, which granted, he wasn't a major part of the cast, but he was there for a couple episodes here and there, and he still remained cool with all these guys. And like, even you can look at him there, he looks like the dad of the group. And I just think that you could see that they love this guy. You could tell that they love him. And I already talked about John Stamos and him, and they called each other like their brothers. And I've already talked about what he said, and I've already talked about what old Dave Coulier said. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't show you what he said. What he put over here was definitely, just very simple. My heart is broken. I'll never let go, brother. Man, the statements like that, you can tell these people are in pain, man. So my heart really goes out to them. And like I said, it was shocking to me. Sucks. I miss the guy. Love seeing him just show up anywhere. Anytime he was on the Today Show or anything like that, he was greatness. The Olsen Twins, they said something really nice. We are deeply sad that he's no longer with us, but that he will continue to be by our side to guide us as gracefully as he always had. Oh man, that's a beautiful statement to say about somebody when they've passed. Oh, that's literally like the high tribute right there. It almost gets me a little emotional. Man, like I said, he touched a lot of people. Again, not with his comedy, or not just with his comedy, but with who he was, because he's known those girls since they can remember. They've known Bob Saget. So in their eyes, he was sort of, around. He was around as long as their father. Man, he's going to be missed. This is another one right here. Candace Cameron said, she says, I don't know what to say. I have no words. Bob was one of the best human beings I'll ever have known in my life. I loved him so much. Jeez, that stuff just gets you, man. When you hear that kind of stuff about people, it just tears you up. This one right here also, too, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Jason Alexander and him had known each other. Jason Alexander, George from Seinfeld. And this is what I found these pictures today. And so, man, look at that picture of them back in the day and how young Bob Saget was and how young Jason Alexander was. And I guess this was their common pose. And man, it warms my heart, but saddens my heart all at the same time. And again, I didn't even know the guy. I can't imagine the people that all were close to him are feeling. But I just wanted to touch on that for a little bit, guys, and just give Bob some tribute. I just thought he deserved it. Like I said, he was a part of my TV entertainment life pretty much since I can remember. And every time I saw the dude, he just made me laugh, always made me have joy on my face. I even saw one guy today talking, and he was just like, man, just thinking about him is making me smile right now. And I think that's pretty amazing when you can do something like that with your life, that when people just think about you, that they smile. So, man, rest in peace, Bob. You were, like I said, man, going to be completely missed. I still am in shock that it's happened, but we have everything good to remember you by, and you led an awesome life. So here's to you in the next one, man. Hope you sleep well. See you guys.